If everyone would want to take the time that's on, or a couple of you, let me know that you're hearing me just fine. That would be awesome to see that in the questions or chat section that you can hear me. All right. David says he can hear me fine. That's good. And we don't have hundreds of people on today, so I'll just take a couple opinions and I'll feel good about it. So, all right. Well, welcome to the September 2016 webinar. We're lucky enough today. We didn't think Don was going to be able to join us thanks to some jury duty activity, but he was able to join us today. So you get the three amigos. You get Mike, Aaron, and Don today. So that's a fabulous lineup, at least without including me. So that's at least one plus to today. So I didn't have a chance in the minutes notice Don gave us to highlight them, but both Don, Mike, and myself are all on today's call and happy to talk to everyone and help you out. As always, as you have questions, please go ahead and drop them in the question box. We love to answer those and try to get to them in line as we're going through things, and then we'll definitely have time at the end for questions and answers as well. But we try to answer 100% of the questions that get asked during the webinar, so please feel free to drop your question in there, and then we'll read the question aloud and help give the answer with it. For any of the attendees that might be completely new or considering if you're going to use GetFiveStars as a customer platform, here is a great way to be able to understand what the platform is about. So real quick, just to give you an idea of what our platform does. The easiest way to explain it is our system allows touch points to be able to customize a feedback flow. So it's a series of touch points between email and web and mobile landing pages that allow your customers to give you feedback. So once you have those customized and set up, then it's all about just adding your customers into this process so they can go through the feedback flow and provide your business with feedback and encourage them, the happy ones, to write online reviews. At the very front of our system, we utilize Net Promoter Score. So as a consumer, you've probably been asked a Net Promoter Score question before, and that's basically asking you how likely you are to refer a friend or a colleague to the business asking, and it's a 0 to 10 rating scale. And Net Promoter Score breaks this 0 to 10 rating down into 3 categories. 9 and 10s are your promoters. These are your brand advocates, people that will go out of their way to refer business to you, talk about you, mention you. Definitely when they're specifically asked about someone in your service or product category, they're going to mention you. Your passives are your 7 and 8s. You met their expectations, but you haven't put them over the tipping point of being a brand advocate, and they aren't as likely to refer your business. 0 to 6 are your detractors. They had a less than pleasurable experience. The further down the line we get closer to 0, they might even be speaking out against your business and telling others not to use you. So within this, Net Promoter Score takes the percentage of your promoters that rated you a 9 and 10 and minuses it from your percentage of detractors. And this produces a number for you to understand your Net Promoter Score from negative 100 all the way up to positive 100. So within that, that's where you want to understand that score. And that can be really the tricky thing for people a lot of times, is because they get confused because of the negative 100 to 100. So a Net Promoter Score of like 60 might happen for a business, and that ends up being a really good score, but doesn't feel like a good score on 0 to 100. So that's definitely one aspect and element to keep in mind with that. All right, we offer a number of different ways. So as we outlined, we have this feedback flow, and then we have a number of different ways to get customers into it. So the most actively used and why people seek out our tool a lot of times is on the proactive side. So proactively, you can send a customer an email and ask them for feedback and as part of the process. And then we also offer a number of different ways into the platform. Kiosk mode is a great way to set up a tablet or a Chromebook just at your location, and they complete the initial rating and saying who they are on site within your facility, and then they are emailed a follow-up asking them to review you online if they have a positive experience. We have a number of different integrations. We have a full API, so you're able to integrate that way if you want one platform like your CRM or however else you're holding your customer data to automatically feed customers into GetFiveStars. And then I do want to touch on our Zapier integration. So Zapier is a great tool. The easy way to look at it is it's an API coupler. So it allows those of us who are non-technical to be able to set up connections between two platforms. So with Zapier, you're able to say, I'll set up a Zap between MailChimp and GetFiveStars. So every time I add a customer into my MailChimp mailing list, it's also going to send them over to GetFiveStars to send out a feedback request. Zapier services over 500 different platforms, right? All of the main ones that you'd expect from spreadsheets and email platforms and accounting software like QuickBooks Online and FreshBooks and things like that. So the best thing to do if you're interested in automating what you're doing, feeding customers automatically into our platform, is go to zapier.com and look up GetFiveStars. I also included kind of our starting point URL there of /zapbook/GetFiveStars. So the easiest way to look at that is an action in one platform you're already using triggers that customer being added to our platform. We also have a number of reactive entry points where you can use a short URL to get people into the feedback process. This is great for using on social media, putting it on Facebook or Twitter and asking past customers to leave feedback, linking it to it on your website. And I'll talk more about a few ideas that I've had around that lately at the end. We have our testimonial widget, and we're going to discuss that a little bit more too as we talk about Google's changes to reviews around the web. The testimonial widget allows you to place code on your website so you can automatically push testimonials that you acquire and get 5 stars up to your website. And this really helps populate unique content to your web page where you feature the widget. It puts a nice trust rating on there for your customers to be able to see how past customers have rated you, and they're also able to see their comments in working with you and how they feel about it and the specific things that they're calling out with it. Email marketing, so we have a mail merge feature, so if you're doing a monthly newsletter through Campaign Monitor, MailChimp, Constant Contact, you can build a URL so that when that user clicks a button you've built into your template called Give Feedback or Customer Feedback, when they click on that, it's automatically going to pull in that customer's name and email address into our platform so they can easily leave you feedback without having to fill out a name and an email address field on there. So that's one more great way to get more people into that feedback flow is by including that in your other email marketing or transactional email marketing that you're doing. For multi-locations, we have a franchise locator, so the user is able to go to a landing page and then select, show me the locations in this state, and I need the location in this city to leave feedback for. So that allows you, just the way the rest of our system works, to be able to compare and line up that customer to a specific location. This works great on, I would say anywhere from 5 to 10 locations on up for a business. It's not needed for a single location or just a couple of handfuls of location. You're better off placing an individual feedback link for those. And then lastly, we continue to have it in beta, our Wi-Fi portal. That allows you to put that in front of your free Wi-Fi at your location and capture your customer's email address before they log onto your internet. So it helps you build your email list as well as allows you to be able to use that email address to then request feedback. Mike, you wanted to add something?
Just that if people are interested in testing the captive Wi-Fi portal, they should contact us and we will set up a test for them. It works particularly well in restaurants, service areas of repair businesses like car dealers, and salons, areas where they have trouble capturing email address but have a captive audience sitting in their physical facility. So reach out to us. We'd love some more beta testers.
Absolutely. Just a quick review what we covered in our last webinar. The survey questions feature, right? You now have the ability to add survey questions besides Net Promoter Scores. So to find out things about speed of service or quality of something or how your customer service rep or technician treated you, you're able to ask that question and get an answer from that on the same 0 to 10 rating scale. repeat customer feedback. So now we offer the fact we build a profile of that customer, and every time they come in, you're able to request feedback from them. And there's a number of settings that you can play around with there to be able to change what that interval is and when you ask them for feedback. So you can set a suppression time of, say, 30 days. And if they come in inside that 30 days multiple times, you're not going to ask them for feedback every single time, but once they come in on day 32 or day 38, you're going to then request them for feedback. So it's a great way to be able to request feedback from your repeat customers over time within the business. And then we reviewed the 3 types of feedback request emails, right? And a lot of people don't understand there's so much configuration that's available in our platform that your initial reach out email, we have 3 different types. You're able to what we call the default mode, just ask for people to go through the feedback process. We have the second one, which brings the Net Promoter Score question right up into the email. And then the third one where you can actually ask for online reviews right in the very first email. The best thing you can do is go out to our blog and look up the blog post for the 3 types of feedback, and it'll break down all 3 of them and how you set them up and what the pros and cons are to each one. You can also see all of this stuff if you go to our webinars page. We have links to the recaps of each webinar every month where you can see the video, hear the recording, and also see the slides from those webinars as well. So if you're ever feeling lost or you missed out on one of these, we record them and you can catch up on them. For today, September, hard to believe that it's September already and nearing October, but one, we wanted to touch on a few new features that were just mentioned last week in our release notes for September. We want to go into a discussion about Google's reviews from the web now showing up in the knowledge panel. This is of great benefit for those of you that are using our testimonial widget and really value feedback and helping really get your own site to be part of the reputation process that is in the search results. Not just on your site, but in the search results. And so this is a really nice step forward that's happened in Google lately, and we'll break that down a little bit further. I wrote a post last week about how a feedback link, one simple link, can definitely save you from some negative online reviews or some tough reputation challenges to go through. So we'll discuss that a little bit more. And then of course Q&A at the end, or like I said, as we go along, please feel free to ask your questions, because Don and Mike and I will get really bored if we don't get to answer anything from you guys. So figure out something for us, right?
I can ask you questions.
Yeah, I know you can, Mike. You can kill the whole hour asking me questions. One of the first features that we wanted to discuss that most of you have probably already noticed in your customer dashboard is we added this orange reply tag to any of the customer instances or feedbacks where you as the business have replied to them, right? It might be positive feedback and you replied to it, and it might be negative feedback and you replied to it. But we added this tag so you're able to easily visually see when you come into the customer dashboard that you replied to that customer. Just one more way to make it a nice and easy shortcut to see who you replied to and who's left you that. And then it makes it really nice if you're going to go and use like the filter and take a look at rating things down based on what their action was, and then you can also see if you replied to those customers that took that action as well. The second email reminder, I know a number of you, right, since we first discussed this and when we thought this was going to roll out, this is one feature that ended up carrying a number of different things with it and kind of took a little bit longer for it to surface, but those who waited, you are rewarded. The second email reminder is now out and live in the system. So a few things to understand with it. As you can see from the screenshot on the right, we moved to these accordion style templates. So you need to hit the plus sign, and that will drop down each of these individual emails that are within the system. And then you're able to set when these go out, right? So obviously the feedback request email is already controlled by your automatic mode, or if you click to send it right away. But the first reminder email, you can set that from 2 days on up. So if the user doesn't take any action with the feedback request email, the system is going to send out a first reminder whatever the day interval that you have set since that first feedback request went out. The default in the system right now is 2 days, but you can move it to 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever you feel like is in line with your business. And then you can also edit that email as well, which is, probably pretty smart if you want to customize it and let them know, like, hey, we're just sending you a reminder. We contacted you recently about this, and we'd really love you to do that. And then now we have the second email reminder as well. The system used to only have just the initial request and one reminder. And a few of our tests showed we saw just as much interaction when we added an additional reminder. So just to note, it's off by default. And again, you're able to set the number of days after the first reminder email has gone out. So, and I don't know, Don or Mike, if you guys have anything that you want to add to the commentary on the second reminder email.
Not me.
Nope, all good.
All right, I'm going to stop covering it all and make you guys have to talk a little bit more.
So
with that, the one thing I did want to note, just as I talked about, you'll see in a number of the template settings, just because this is kind of a product of a couple of things, right? Those of you who have been with us a long time understand that we've added a ton of features, right? We continue to add features, so in order to kind of clean things up and make organizational easier when you come into any of the settings pages, we ended up moving to these accordion menus. So when you go into each one, you'll see these pluses that you need to then drop down and let people know, what is in there, and then you can take a look at the settings are in there, or the editor might be in there, or whatever else. So that's just of note as you go through those screens. Those pluses just let you know there's more information hidden behind there. Click on that and drop it down. And Fred, maybe I misspoke, and you're letting me know that, but the first reminder email automatically gets sent 2 days after the initial request. That's true, but you can set it at a different date range if you want to as well. All right. So the next thing we want to talk about and talk a little bit more at length, just because this is a shift in behavior at Google, which we always love to just, discuss endlessly. And if we talk long enough about it, Google will change it right while we're talking about it. But there's a number of different reasons why the new feature of what is called reviews from the web has been of interest. And with that, Mike has done a lot of writing a few different posts and talking about a few different things with it. So with that, I'll let Mike kind of discuss in more exactly what is Google's reviews from the web and how you want to start thinking about this as it pertains to your business or to your customers.
So reviews from the web was rolled out, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago, and expands the base from which Google is grabbing reviews and showing reviews. Like all things Google, it is driven by an algorithm, and the algorithm, and also by politics. The politics side is that Yelp reviews and TripAdvisor reviews are not going to show up in the knowledge panel, even though they may have rich snippets in search. The algorithm, roughly as I seem to have it figured out, is currently if there is a brand search, for example, Growler Guys, and Google finds review sites with rich snippets on the first page other than Yelp or TripAdvisor, they will show those first page review pages in the knowledge panel. So that's the basic algorithm. But Google does consider content from GetFiveStars as one of those potential resources. So that's why your site really matters, and implementing either the GFS testimonial widget or the API to leverage that feedback can give you a leg up in the conversion optimization of your knowledge panel. Now,
yeah, and that's what I want to focus on that, Mike, because that was one big thing, right? We've seen over time where there's plenty of people that have debated, right? Like, does capturing initial feedback from your customer, like how are testimonials, are they all that beneficial on your site, and they don't help you at all in the search results, not like how a review does and everything else. But this became really interesting, right? Because now it kind of really doubled the impact of testimonials on your own site using our testimonial widget, because not only are you displaying that content and that trust information on your site when you've already acquired that user and have them on your site, but now you're able to push it up one level higher to the discovery process and what they're seeing about your business when they're doing a search. So you're really getting content in two places by just capturing it once.
And another, well, you can go ahead and switch the slide if you're ready. I am. So one of the interesting things about the algorithm is that there's many ways to do a brand search on a given company. Barbara Oliver, for example, a client of mine, you can search for her by the name Barbara Oliver, her previous name, Barbara Oliver and Company Jewelry, Barbara Oliver and Company, Barbara Oliver Jewelry. And what you find in those variations is that different third-party review snippets will show on the first page. So what you need to do is start with some research, both on your brand and in your industry, in your city, and see which third-party review sites are in fact showing. One of the things about this change is it's now highlighting, because they are excluding Yelp and TripAdvisor from the panel, Google is now highlighting other review sites that have maybe not been so visible, like Foursquare and like YellowPages.com have gained huge amounts of visibility. From our point of view, those then become targets for your review management campaign. So you want to think about possibly crafting your review links to change, and once you get enough in one to get them on the front page, switching to another and attempting to get them on the front page as well. So you want to think about expanding which review sites you're asking at. Facebook shows for sure, Zomato, Foursquare, our product, and a few others. So your own site becomes a leading contender for this, because if your site is properly optimized with content, with rich snippet content from GetFiveStars, it will rank very highly on your brand search. It will typically rank first, and it will get the review stars. So your own site becomes a critical place to leverage your own feedback. You do want to try, investigate some of the discrepancies, find out why on one brand search certain review sites show and not on others. Typically, I've seen that happen when business has changed its name. So, for example, Barbara Oliver recently changed her name from Barbara Oliver and Company Jewelry to Barbara Oliver Jewelry, and the Yellow Page one ranks well on the former but not well on the latter. So it's incumbent to get that page name changed over to her current name so that it ranks equally well. So you may have to do some investigation. And then finally, you want to be sure to explore the page 2 and 3 results to see which ones have review stars, because you may want to, for example, add them into your review management, maybe throw them a link so that they possibly get elevated onto the first page, and thus either fill out the knowledge panel ideally, or perhaps push off something that's less desirable. So it gives you the opportunity to get some measure between your site and researching other sites that might show up there. Gives you some opportunity to strive for improved conversion optimization of this presence. Go ahead.
And Mike, you just kind of recently went through this, right, with one of our clients that, we test out different things and work through stuff, right? And you were kind of able to achieve the testimonial widget and the testimonial page from this insurance agent, making its way into the knowledge panel and the reviews from the web section, right?
Right. Yeah, well, historically, we've had great success on multi-location sites with their own landing pages, but we didn't have as much success with single location sites with a testimonial page. But with a little bit of experimentation, I discovered that under the new, that doesn't need to be. So to achieve these results, which was to get the stars on the page and then get them in, show them in the knowledge panel, one, we put the widget badge on every page of the site. So what the widget or the testimonial badge does on every page of the site is it sends some page prominence down to your testimonial page so that Google knows it's important. The testimonial, the link on that page just says testimonials. So the second thing you need to do once you achieve some measure of prominence for the page so that the page picks up review stars, the second thing you need to do then is add some relevance to the links on your brand name, not the badge link. You can't change that, but you can, for example, on the About Us page, I put a link that says, read Kaplan Insurance Agency reviews. That whole anchor text was linked on the home page and in one or two of the blog posts. It only took 2 or 3 links on the website using Kaplan Insurance Agency as the link phrase to achieve this visibility and to get the site reviews from GetFiveStars onto the reviews from the web page in the knowledge graph.
So
it took about a week to make experiment started.
Yeah, so no external links, just being smart with internal linking and anchor text was able to achieve
Correct.
it.
That's right.
That's doable for people. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I was happy when I figured it out. I had gotten prominence to the page by doing the badge, and when I did a cite command, I saw that the page ranked second, but it didn't rank anywhere for his brand search, and it dawned on me, duh, a little bit of relevance on the link phrase would go a long way. So literally with 3 internal links, I was able to do that, and it showed up, like I said, I started the experiment last week ago Sunday. It showed up yesterday, this morning. So we're talking 8 or 9 days from the beginning to end of the experiment. So
awesome. That's a nice doable range. Mark asked. Yep. Go ahead.
Mark asked about explaining anchor text again. So can you go to Kaplan's site or not real quickly? Is it possible? So what we did was we first put the badge in, right? So the anchor text on the badge is something like testimonial. So anchor text, obviously, at the basic level, here it is just the phrase that is linked so that Google can see it, right? So click through and scroll down just a little bit. There we go. A little bit further. There you go. So you can see the badge on the right side clicks into testimonials, but that doesn't have any contextual value to it while it sends page strength because it's on every page, the testimonial page. So we added a few links like the one at the bottom of the home page where we kept the brand name into the link anchor text of the link, and we did that on this page, the About Us page, and one blog post. I also, if you notice the top at the beginning here, this Kaplan Insurance Agency right at the top links into that testimonial page. That first About Us Kaplan Insurance Agency link at the top right there links into the testimonial page, and then the link in the menu. Now I have no idea whether that one provided benefit or not, but I thought, well, it doesn't hurt to have it, doesn't affect negatively the customer experience. So that's what I mean when I say anchor text, to add some contextual. And then on the review page, the other thing I did was to add Wappinger Falls as an H2 beyond, so that again Google knew that it was that the page is about Kaplan Insurance in Wappinger Falls. Those minor changes with the badge resulted in both the stars and the showing of the stars on the keyword on the brand name search.
And Mike, do you have any opinion on this? So I often run across a lot of customers that just go and place the testimonial widget on a page that's labeled, testimonials and reviews, or testimonials or reviews, or whatever combination. But I mean, how valuable or smart or necessary do you think it is to provide a few lines of text that helps in the context of the page and also introducing probably a few more keywords as well?
Well, Google, I don't know. I think that from the user's point of view and from a legal point of view, I think you should make it clear what these are and how they're functioning. I think that long haul, you might want to think about linking to a terms of service on this page so that users and Google can see that you're handling these reviews seriously. But context is everything. Google is like a blind 3-year-old that's just learning, or a hard to see 3-year-old that's just learning to read. I mean, context is everything. So you got to spoon feed it. The more context you give it, the more that Google understands. So that's why I gave it those extra links and a little bit more context on this page to really understand what it was. Now, just from putting in the badge, we were able to get the stars on the page. But then the change that we made last week was doing the link phrases and the additional context on this page. So we made 4 changes: new headline on the page, new menu name, and then 2 or 3 additional links throughout the site, one from the home page, one from the About Us page, using the brand name. So not a lot of changes, and it moved it from who knows where to about position 5 on the brand search.
Nice. So it definitely reinforces just the value and how important the testimonial widget is, and then with some other further adjustments on the site, bringing that into, first page of results is awesome as well, and the reviews from the web section just really just gives a ton of value to that customer feedback that you've gathered and then pushed to the site.
Quick question from Mark. Great question. Thanks. We have BBB stars showing on page 1 of Google. They do not show in the new review from the web section. Why? I've noticed this phenomenon as well. I don't know exactly why. I have 2 theories. One theory is that they asked the Better Business Bureau, and the Better Business Bureau chose not to because they didn't want to confuse consumers between their rating and review ratings. This came from a conversation I had with a BBB employee in Dallas. The other thought I had is just that the Better Business Bureau and membership in it is considered by Google a very strong trust and relevance signal. It is sort of, ultimate verification of your existence and trustworthiness. And it could be that they didn't want to compromise that sort of a thing. Now, again, I don't really know. It's a great question, but you're right. Along with TripAdvisor and Yelp, even though it shows on the first page, it does not show in the knowledge panel, which means you need to expand your review program beyond that to get a couple more to show there.
Yep. And I mean, one other possible take I have on that too, Mike, is that there is something bigger in the works between the BBB and Google that probably more so leverages their standard, letter grade rating that they give businesses as opposed to the 5-star review rating that they have.
Awesome. We know they've always leveraged it privately.
Yep.
Just as a note. So.
Yep. Cool. Good question, Mark. So wanted to move on to the blog post that I had last week and open it up to a few discussion, and then hopefully this is something that you guys can look at and accomplish for your business, or if you're an online marketer and utilizing GetFiveStars for your customers. So the basis of my article was really just focusing on placing a feedback link somewhere on your website. I'm always amazed, especially in industries where let's face it, some industries are much harder to get reviews, right? Our insurance example might be one where the consumer interacting with an insurance agent or agency, an online review isn't top of mind at any point within their process unless that agent asks for it or puts them into a service like GetFiveStars. But you have a number of others where that customer's feedback and writing a review is very much almost an innate part of the process, right? And this comes into play in hospitality and retail and dining and restaurant experiences especially. So it really always throws me off whenever we're in, you jump into a website and, I just use like a restaurant as an example, and why when I go to that restaurant's website, isn't there a feedback link somewhere on the site located at all, right? It'll just be completely null and void, even though there might be a number of customers going to that restaurant's website to give them feedback privately, right? Because they want to have something resolved. They might, have some compliments they want to pay too, but it amazes me sometimes that you can spend 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks trying to figure out where you can possibly leave some feedback or contact someone, when just placing one link in your navigation, your header, your footer can accomplish that. So a couple of things.
As a note there,
yeah.
Let me just interrupt real quickly, not that I don't have great pleasure in doing so, but is that, goes along with the idea of making your business complaint friendly, right? That every part of your customer service should include the ability, every part of your marketing and customer service should include the ability to make it easy for people to complain. It gets things off their chest. It prevents negative reviews. It creates an environment in which you are perceived as willing to receive these complaints. It can't do anything but speak well of your company. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. A blog post I'll be writing soon in the future, I just included this experience in a speaking engagement that I did. Is I went to leave feedback for my local Arby's, right? Like partially out of wanting to leave feedback, but mostly out of wanting to see what their customer experience was like and being feedback friendly. So after clicking around the site for a few minutes and not being able to locate anywhere where I could leave feedback, I was left with the only option of clicking on the sitemap link. And once I got the sitemap, I then was able to scroll through the 80 to 100 pages in their site and find out where they wanted feedback. I clicked on that and got a feedback landing page. They were giving away like $1,000 a day for feedback or whatever else. And I pretty much assumed that that was part of a promotion where they cared about feedback for 30 days or for 1 quarter and promoted that heavily in store and on receipts and online. And then that kind of had fallen by the wayside and they weren't bothering to link to it or ask for feedback anymore. So I went into the process. I had to do work to say which location. I had to look up the location ID number. So I had to toggle back and forth between the location page and they had the franchise and location ID, fill out all that information, and then I finally got to giving them feedback. 27 questions I had to answer. So this is one of the things that I think I really love about our system, and we've bent a little bit, right? We do allow you to answer a few questions, but it isn't this self-serving process. When Mike says make feedback easy, they made it so hard for me. There was 27 questions that I had to answer, and probably 2 of them actually related to what I wanted to say. The other 25 were all about what the business, what Arby's wanted to know. And to me, that was such a failure, and it's super off-putting. And the only reason I completed it is because I wanted to go through the entire process. I guarantee you plenty of customers would quit when you have something that lengthy. So keep that in mind. That was really interesting. I'm going to write about it and include a lot of the screenshots from it. My moral of the story is I ate my lunch in half the time that it took me to give feedback for their business. But here's one example. Here's a GetFive Stars.
I think the other moral, Aaron, should be eat someplace else.
Well, definitely didn't make me. It didn't turn me into a promoter of their brand. I'll tell you that much. I'm giving a 0 to 6 rating right now. I'm falling into that end of things. So.
And pick someplace that serves good fresh beets, because I know you love them.
That is never happening. So this is the footer from a client of ours that uses GetFive Stars at Bell Springs Winery. So just as simple as, right, they have a link to their testimonial widget, but you can see as I've circled here, right, they have a link that just says give your feedback. And when you click this, it takes it right to the feedback landing page. So again, which any organization can figure out how to do, include a link within the footer of your site. It's then available on all pages. And I think this is a win because a lot of customers look to the footer of a website. They know that's where a lot of kind of secondary or straight contact links are often located, right? Addresses and phone numbers and things like that. So to place it in that footer, even though it's way at the bottom of the page, it puts it on every page. It makes it very accessible to the user. And the user, a majority of users already know to look in this area for contact type information. Another example is for like mass locations, right? So this is another customer of ours, Nectar. They have 50 some locations. So on their one main site, they have also dropped a feedback link into the footer of their website. And then once a user clicks that, it's then taken to our feedback locator, where now you can select, I want a location in California, and I want this Los Angeles location on 37th Street, and then allows them to give feedback. So it makes it really nice for a multiple location or a franchise business. All they had to do is go to IT and say place one link, right? Because if you go to IT and you ask them to do certain integrations or whatever else, sometimes it can take a lot of time, or you get told no a lot, or it's too complex and everything else. Well, this is a complete win because it's like place one HTML link in our footer, and that now allows any customer to come in and start to give feedback easily for that location. My post, I also called out a couple more things that had to do with, like, you know, the notification bar at the top of a website. That's a very common WordPress plugin. People use it a lot to ask for, emails for a newsletter or to, give a sale or a promotion or something like that. But I also pointed out, like, why wouldn't you use that to ask for feedback, especially if you are these industries like retail, hospitality, and dining, where people are looking to give feedback. So why not give that precedence at the very top of your website? And then I even suggested a modal overlay, right? Everybody uses kind of pop-up modal windows to request email addresses for a newsletter sign up or to announce a sale and whatever else. But what about using that to request feedback, right? Where it's triggered once a user's been on the site for 5 seconds or visits 2 pages or whatever else. So just giving a few different ideas to placing a feedback link on your site. It isn't proactive because you're not emailing someone and asking them for feedback, but you are placing it somewhere where it makes it a lot easier for someone to give feedback, to Mike's point. All right, so with that, we've arrived at the end of our scheduled programming for everything that we wanted to cover today. And a few of you, Mark and Fred, had asked some questions while we were in here, but definitely want to open it up if there's additional questions on anything we covered, or you even want to ask some generalities right now, anything related to reviews or yourself using the platform or anything else. We still have a nice 10 to 15 minute section here today that we can use some additional time to answer some things for you regarding the product or the online reputation landscape or things like that. So maybe somebody wants to type in a question and go from there. Or Don and Mike, is there anything that you wanted to be able to touch on?
We might want to mention about the Google review URLs now, and that that some of the
Sure.
changes that have been happening there.
Okay, so Google has recently released an API that creates a new ascertainable ID for every business that they have in their database, and they've created a fairly easy way for us to surface that ID and put that ID into a review link. So our plan, now that it is finally stabilized, this link has changed an infinite number of times over the last 6 or 9 or 10 months, and we've scrambled to keep up with it. We think that this is a fairly long-term solution because they recently integrated it into their API as well, or their GMB API as well as the Places API. And so we will soon be on new customers that you add. I think it's in there now, right, Don? When you add new customer, it'll automatically suggest this new link.
Yep.
But we will also offer up inside of existing customers a little alert box that if you just select it, we will auto change it out. That's probably a week away, but like in the past, if you go into each individual customer, we will give you a choice of upgrading their existing link to the new one. Now the new one essentially it seems to be a stable, long-term, very functional link, takes you right to the review box. It's a good link. So that second part of this process should be available sometime next week inside of each of your locations. So keep an eye out for it.
Great. Don, anything else that you want to touch on to make people aware of that is coming down the pipeline or currently being worked on in the GetFiveStars kitchen?
In the kitchen. Well, Mark, I see a question from Mark asking that he says he uses Wix for his website provider, and any update on schema showing up on Wix. So yeah, that's a good question, Mark. I mean, right now our testimonials widget has several. We call it graceful degradation. So if your site uses PHP, then everything works fine, or if it's using WordPress, it's very easy. If it doesn't, then we fall back to JavaScript. And the problem is that while the widget will show just fine, we can't include the schema markup with just JavaScript because that happens just because of the way the Google crawler works. Like theoretically it's possible, but after lots and lots of testing, it's not. So what we have is we've done some integrations with different content management systems where they call our API and get the data and include it that way. And we are looking at other content management systems like Wix, and Weebly and Squarespace, but we don't have, that will require us to develop custom plugins for those platforms. And so we just haven't worked all that out yet. So I don't have a timeline. It's something we're aware of and I'd like to get to, but we don't have any dates for that now.
What would be ideal if Wix supported something like Zapier, but they don't currently, right? So if they used industry standard API in and out, then it would be trivial for us, but they currently don't, unfortunately.
Yes, because we have an API that can return all this information securely, and so it's there. It's just a matter of making it work with all the different content management systems out there.
I have
feel
a
like
point
that's
here to add to the conversation about the any other questions. I note on your last slide that you mentioned me as a CRO. I thought we decided that I am now the CDO, the Chief Delegation Officer. So I am demanding an upgrade to my title.
All right, we'll change the shape of the R and remove you from being the Chief Review Officer. We can probably just make you a different chief of something every month if that's what keeps you happy.
That would be I would be into that. That's a great idea. Chief of Chiefs.
Maybe
Chief
anybody
officer.
on the webinar, you can select whatever Mike is the chief of next.
That's a good idea. We'll open it up to voting.
Totally. Awesome. All right. Well, since we have another question, which is fabulous. David asks if there's any experience with GetFiveStars being used to request feedback from Etsy. And I don't have any knowledge of that firsthand.
No, I haven't got that request. I like Etsy though. It's a cool site.
And we certainly would be glad to add Etsy to the review sites. I don't know.
Well, I think in this case, and David, maybe you can clarify, right? It's more of a review on a per product basis, or are you inquiring for reviews as like that seller's store? So, I mean, because there's kind of a few different things involved with that, right? Where GetFiveStars in the end is, right now tied to reviews being accumulated for a location, and that location doesn't actually have to be a physical location. So if it was just for that Etsy members store themselves, you could definitely acquire reviews for that and figure out how to display those. If you're getting down to where one person has 10 different products, that one's kind of a little bit different of an orange to peel at this moment. We are looking at changing a few things in the future where you could get all the way as granular as acquiring reviews for a product per se. So, and David clarifies review of sales on our customers' Etsy store. Right, but I think you're still talking about would those be reviews per product within their store, because you need to tie the reviews to the product or just to the store overall. So as a store overall, I think you'd be able to do that as the platform exists right now, just by the store profile being the quote-unquote location that you're capturing it for.
Yeah, that's what David is saying in the Q&A. He just wants the review of sales on our Etsy store from customers.
Right. Yep.
So
we
David
need
will
to
help
add
you.
Etsy as a review link in our online review links page. Do we have it? We do have it. It's already there as a link.
Yeah, Thomas sent it to me. It looks like it's there, so we should be good.
So just choose the Etsy store review link from
Thank you, Thomas.
the online review links page, add it to your profile, add your link to your Etsy profile, and it can be done that way.
And David, I guess I'm still not clear. I'd love to know, are you talking about individual products? I mean, you're right, you answered, and thank you for this, overall product and delivery. But one store can have 10 products. And I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. Are you trying to accumulate reviews for each of the 10 products separately, or just the account owner, that specific Etsy store itself? Just because one store owner can have multiple products out there. So maybe if you clarified that, that would help us understand where the former
product.
Yeah, so they have 100 products and requesting each sale. Yeah, I mean, so this is where you're really looking at it. So right now we don't have really a straightforward setup to attach the reviews to each product. but definitely that user's profile. You could send out all the same ones, but they're writing a review just on the, hey, I bought this and the delivery was great and it arrived. It was what I, expected and whatever else, but you wouldn't be able to route those reviews to each individual specific product. So it'd be no different than saying like, hey, this Best Buy store is great and all this stuff, but you can't take the reviews down to here's just for the Samsung 42-inch LCD. Here's reviews just for the Acer Chromebook. Hopefully that makes sense. But we've kind of mapped out some ways where down the line in the future we want to be able to allow that if you wanted to acquire reviews on each individual product or departments inside of a business. There's some multiple different configurations that we've started to talk about. All right, great. Anything else, guys, before we wrap up?
Nope.
All right.
Good on this
Awesome.
end. Thanks, everybody, for being here today.
Yep. As always, we will write a short recap. We'll have the recording of this webinar, and then we'll also have the slides uploaded. So look for those in the next day or two on the GetFiveStars blog. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you in October on the webinar.